Hey y'all, Marian here, and I'm a little unkempt. Just got done working in my Make It Do garden, and I will say more about that later in the summer. But today I wanted to come on and talk about the higher self and the lower self. Now, the higher self and the lower self are different than the survival instinct and the power, intuitive power. Anyway, my mentor and guide would call it standing in your core versus coming from defense and survival mode. Now, survival mode is just trying to save your life, and you often are acting very childish in those moments because they're strategies that you took on as a child to survive in your family, because your family of origin is there to create trauma and to give you the choice to live in your core and in your power. Higher and lower self are completely different, because what happens with higher and lower self is this is where you're living your life purpose regardless of how you're acting. And so your higher self, I came up with this great analogy, so hopefully it works for you. My father, in his higher self, was by profession a quality engineer, but by nature constantly looking for ways we could improve. If he could tell you how to save a penny, he would. For instance, if I mowed the yard in such a way that for me was just fun and creative, and I was just doing designs in the grass, he would tell me, Marian, you're wasting so much gas because you're not doing it the effective way, right? Now, that has been great because it has fed my improvement engineer, as I call it, in my third chakra, because I see myself as someone who wants to constantly improve. On the flip side of that, my dad's lower self fed my perfectionism, and so he was still looking for improvement, but instead of looking for ways that we could save money, looking for ways that we could, make this window fit into an old house type of thing, he was looking for ways that would constantly criticize, and that perfectionism became traumatic for me in many ways, and for others of my brothers and sisters. And so that's kind of the difference from the higher and the lower self. Also, if you see the video I made about my parents being the great, generous, charitable landlords, my mom specifically. My mom was very giving, overly giving in many ways, and that's part of her could have come from defense, because it could have been a survival instinct because she was born during the time of the Depression and her family had more than some families, and so she could have just been taught to give to all the hobos who came down the railroad tracks beside her grandparents' house. Actually, they went in between the two houses. But anyway, but on the other hand, it could have also been her lower, so the defense and lower self sometimes look similar. But on the flip side of that, it could have been her higher self, where she trusted God and knew that she would be provided for in other ways. They're just interesting nuances to play with, and that's one of the things that I coach about in my Receive and Give coaching programs.